If you're waiting for the perfect moment, you've already lost time you can't get back. Comfort is the enemy that whispers the loudest when your future starts calling. Greatness isn't hidden, it's simply ignored by those who choose sleep over purpose. Purpose before action is the foundation of every meaningful grind, because effort without direction is just exhaustion disguised as progress. The world often tells us to move fast, to hustle harder, to do more, but rarely does it ask us to stop and understand why we are doing any of it in the first place. When you understand your purpose, you no longer wake up to chase tasks, you wake up to pursue meaning. Without that clarity, the grind becomes a cycle of activity instead of a journey of intention. Purpose is the internal anchor that keeps you steady when things get heavy and the path feels uncertain. Most people start their day reacting. They wake up responding to alarms, notifications, responsibilities, and expectations, but purpose shifts that pattern. Instead of reacting, you begin initiating. You don't wait for the world to tell you what matters today. You decide it before the world even wakes. Purpose turns the grind from something you must survive into something you choose to engage in. It transforms the early mornings and late nights into investments rather than sacrifices. It reframes struggle as effort towards something that actually matters to you. Purpose isn't discovered in a moment of inspiration. It's uncovered by paying attention to the things that pull at you even when you try to ignore them. It's in the goals that stay with you year after year, the dreams that feel unreasonable, the ideas that keep resurfacing no matter how many times you push them aside. Purpose doesn't whisper to everyone with the same clarity, but it does whisper to everyone consistently. The problem is that most people quiet that voice with noise, busyness, or doubt. When you slow down enough to listen, you begin to hear what you truly want instead of what the world told you to want. Once you identify your purpose, even loosely, the grind becomes lighter. Not because the work becomes easier, but because it becomes aligned. There's a huge difference between pushing yourself because you feel pressured and pushing yourself because you feel called. Pressure drains you, calling fuels you. And when you operate from purpose, you stop comparing your pace to others. You realize your path isn't supposed to match theirs because your purpose is not theirs. Comparison loses its power over you when you finally understand why you're moving. Purpose also gives resilience its strength. When the excitement fades, which it always does, your purpose is the only thing capable of pulling you through the days where quitting seems reasonable. Motivation might get you to the starting line, but purpose is what keeps your feet moving when motivation runs out. When you forget your purpose, everything feels heavier. When you reconnect with it, even the hard days feel like steps forward. It always comes back to knowing what you're moving toward. Purpose before action is also about honesty. It requires asking yourself questions most people avoid. What do I really want? What am I afraid to admit I care about? What would I pursue if I stopped worrying about being judged? These questions demand courage, because purpose is always found on the other side of honesty. And the truth is, most people don't fail because they lack discipline. They fail because they lack direction. Discipline becomes easier when the direction is clear. When you wake up with purpose, the grind becomes a conversation with your future self. Every action says, "I'm coming for you." The late nights and early mornings stop feeling like burdens. They start feeling like choices. And once your choices are aligned with your purpose, the grind stops being something you force and becomes something you grow within. Purpose before action is not just a statement. It's the shift that turns effort into evolution. Keynote 2. Discomfort as a compass. Discomfort as a compass is a truth most people try to escape rather than embrace. We're taught to move toward what feels safe, predictable, and manageable, but growth rarely lives in those places. Discomfort is not the enemy, it is the signal. It's the indicator that you are stepping into something that demands a greater version of you. When you experience discomfort, it is often a sign you've placed yourself at the edge of your current capabilities, and that edge is where transformation begins. Most people misinterpret discomfort as a warning to stop, but it's actually an invitation to continue. There is a specific kind of discomfort that shows up right before break, through moments, the kind that makes your heart beat faster and your mind question whether you're ready. This discomfort is not a barrier, it's a threshold. It's the point where you are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. When you reach this place, it's easy to step back because stepping back feels familiar, but familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. You can be comfortable and stuck at the same time, and discomfort is the only force strong enough to push you out of that paralysis. When you start to see discomfort this way, your relationship with challenges changes. Instead of running from the difficult conversations, the ambitious goals, the unfamiliar opportunities, you begin moving toward them, not recklessly but intentionally, because discomfort is often the clearest sign that you're on the path that matters. The things that make you uncomfortable reveal the things that matter deeply to you. If they didn't matter, you wouldn't feel anything at all. Discomfort is emotional evidence of importance. Every person who has ever done something significant confronted discomfort at every level. The discomfort of being seen, the discomfort of being misunderstood, the discomfort of being judged, the discomfort of not knowing the outcome, the discomfort of not having all the answers. These moments didn't stop them because they understood something most people forget. Growth happens on the other side of uncertainty. You cannot strengthen what you never challenge, and you cannot challenge what you always avoid. When you lean into discomfort, you begin building internal endurance. You become someone who doesn't crumble at the first sign of difficulty. You become someone who recognizes that fear is often a sign of direction. If you fear trying something because it might expose your weaknesses, that's exactly where you need to go. Weakness exposed is weakness that can finally be strengthened. Strength cannot grow in the dark. It grows in the open where discomfort brings truth to the surface. Discomfort also sharpens awareness. It forces you to pay attention. When you try something new or bigger than before, you become more present. Every step becomes intentional because every step matters. That heightened awareness allows you to notice things about yourself you couldn't see when everything was easy. You discover limits you didn't know you had, and strengths you didn't know existed. Without discomfort, those discoveries remain hidden. There is also a deeper form of discomfort, the discomfort of staying the same. It's subtle but powerful. It shows up as restlessness, dissatisfaction, or the quiet feeling that you are capable of more than the life you're currently living. This discomfort is just as valuable as the discomfort of challenge because it reveals the gap between your current identity and your potential identity. Ignoring this discomfort keeps people stuck in loops they never escape. Facing it becomes the first step toward change. When you learn to treat discomfort as a compass, you stop asking, "Is this easy?" and start asking, "Is this right?" You stop searching for the path of least resistance and begin choosing the path of deepest meaning. Discomfort does not guarantee failure. In fact, it often foreshadows success because success requires you to step into spaces where comfort cannot follow. Discomfort shows up not to block you, but to prepare you. It is the sharpening stone for every future version of you. Once you recognize this, discomfort loses its power to intimidate and gains the power to guide. Consistency over intensity is a principle most people understand but rarely practice, because intensity feels exciting while consistency feels ordinary. Intensity is dramatic, loud, and memorable. It's the late night burst of motivation, the sudden decision to overhaul your life, the belief that massive action in a short time can solve everything. But intensity is a spark, not a strategy. It burns bright and then it burns out. Consistency, on the other hand, is steady, quiet, and unimpressive to anyone except the person committed to it. Yet consistency is the force that reshapes character, builds discipline, and creates results that last. The problem is that people chase intensity because it feels like progress. They love the idea of pushing themselves to extremes, proving their dedication in grand gestures, but what actually moves you forward are the small, repeated actions you perform long after the excitement fades. Intensity demands emotional highs. Consistency survives emotional lows. When you rely on intensity, your progress becomes conditional. You move forward only when the conditions feel perfect. But when you rely on consistency, your progress becomes inevitable. You move forward because it is part of who you are. Consistency is powerful because it compounds. A single action done once changes nothing. A small action repeated hundreds of times can change everything. The person who reads 10 pages every day will, over time, understand more than the person who reads for 5 hours once a month. The person who trains a little every day gains more than the person who pushes hard and then disappears for weeks. Real transformation doesn't happen in sudden leaps. It unfolds through steady steps. When you understand that, you stop searching for shortcuts and start respecting the process. There is a misconception that consistency requires perfection, but consistency actually requires acceptance. Acceptance that some days you will not feel motivated, acceptance that you will not always perform at your best, acceptance that progress can be slow, uninspiring, and unglamorous. Consistency is the willingness to show up even when the outcome looks small. It's the decision to honor the identity you're building rather than the mood you're in. On the days you feel unstoppable, consistency celebrates with you. On the days you feel drained, consistency carries you. One of the reasons people struggle with consistency is that they underestimate the power of small wins. They dismiss progress that doesn't feel dramatic, but small wins build momentum. Momentum builds belief, and belief builds identity. Every small action is a vote for the person you're trying to become. When you show up consistently, even in tiny ways, you reinforce the internal story that says, "I follow through." Over time, that identity becomes stronger than any obstacle or doubt, and consistency becomes natural rather than forced. Intensity seeks immediate reward, but consistency embraces delayed gratification. Intensity wants to feel the transformation today, but consistency understands that transformation is a side effect, not a moment. When you become consistent, you stop obsessing over results and start focusing on the process. You stop measuring your worth by how much you accomplished in one day and start measuring it by how often you kept your promise to yourself. This shift is liberating because it removes the pressure to be perfect and replaces it with the freedom to be persistent. Consistency also builds resilience. When you commit to showing up regularly, you learn to navigate obstacles rather than surrender to them. You adapt, you adjust, you find alternative ways to move forward. Intensity collapses when life gets complicated, but consistency bends and finds a way to continue. The ability to continue, even at a slower pace, is what keeps you progressing when others quit. Consistency teaches you that progress is not linear, it is layered. Every small action adds depth, strength, and direction. When you choose consistency over intensity, you choose sustainable growth over temporary excitement. You choose identity over impulse. You choose long-term fulfillment over short-term validation. And eventually, something powerful happens. Consistency creates its own intensity. The small actions build into habits, the habits build into skills, and the skills build into unstoppable momentum. At that point, the work that once felt difficult becomes part of you. You don't push yourself to be consistent. Consistency pushes you forward. Discipline, when motivation fades, is the difference between wishing for a life and building one. Motivation is a beautiful spark, but it is unpredictable. It arrives loudly, fuels you intensely, and then disappears without warning. People wait for motivation as if it's a permission slip to act, but real progress does not rely on emotional convenience. It relies on discipline, the quiet and consistent commitment to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel in the moment. Discipline is not the absence of emotion, it is the decision to prioritize intention over emotion. Motivation thrives on excitement. It loves new beginnings, big dreams, and inspiring possibilities, but that excitement is fragile. It struggles under the weight of routine, repetition, and challenge. The truth is that most meaningful journeys are not fueled by constant excitement. They are shaped by the days where nothing feels inspiring at all. It's in those moments that discipline takes the wheel. Discipline is the internal agreement that your goals deserve your effort, even when your feelings don't support the effort. It's the understanding that your future self depends on your present commitment. Discipline requires a shift in identity. You move from being someone who acts only when they feel like it to someone who acts because it aligns with who they are becoming. This shift is powerful because it separates your progress from your mood. Your mood can change every hour, But your identity, when strengthened by discipline, becomes a stable foundation. When you commit to discipline, you stop negotiating with your excuses. You remove the option of quitting simply because the day feels heavy or uninspired. The challenge most people face is confusing motivation with readiness. They believe they must feel ready before they act, but readiness rarely shows up before action. It is built through action. Discipline teaches you that beginning without feeling ready is not only acceptable, it is essential. When you show up on the days you don't feel motivated, you train your mind to understand that discomfort is not a barrier. It is a signal that you are living your commitment rather than chasing a momentary feeling. There is a specific type of strength that only appears when motivation is gone. It's a quieter strength, often overlooked because it doesn't come with fireworks or emotional highs. Yet this quiet strength is the one that builds mastery. Anyone can act when they are motivated. Only a disciplined person can act when everything feels heavy, inconvenient, or uncertain. This is why discipline creates confidence. Confidence is not built from the days you feel unstoppable. It is built from the days you keep going, despite feeling anything but unstoppable. Discipline also creates trust within yourself. When you tell yourself you will do something and you follow through repeatedly, you strengthen your internal credibility. You become someone whose word means something to yourself. This kind of self-trust is rare, but once established, it changes everything. You stop doubting your ability to follow through. You stop relying on external encouragement. You stop needing perfect conditions. You know that you will show up because you have proven it to yourself countless times. People often fear discipline because they associate it with rigidity or restriction. But discipline is actually a form of freedom. It frees you from procrastination, indecision, and the emotional roller coaster of waiting for motivation. It frees you from the trap of starting over again and again because you quit whenever the initial excitement fades. Discipline simplifies life by removing the question, "Will I do it today?" The answer becomes automatic. You do it because it is part of who you are. There will always be days when motivation disappears entirely, days where your energy is low, your focus is scattered, or your enthusiasm is nowhere to be found. These moments are not signs of weakness, they are part of being human, but discipline is the bridge that carries you across these moments. It keeps your progress intact when your emotions try to derail it. It ensures that your dreams do not depend on unpredictable bursts of inspiration. When you understand that discipline is not meant to replace motivation, but to support it, everything changes. Motivation may start the journey, but discipline sustains it. Discipline honors the dream long after motivation stops shouting for your attention. And when motivation eventually returns, as it often does, it finds you already in motion, already progressing, already becoming the person you once only hoped you could be becoming, not achieving, is the essence of a meaningful grind because the journey is not about collecting accomplishments, but about evolving into the kind of person who can create them. Achievements are moments, brief flashes of recognition that fade as quickly as they appear, but becoming is continuous. It is the slow, steady shaping of your identity through the choices you make every day. When you focus solely on achieving, you chase milestones that never feel like enough. But when you focus on becoming, every step counts, every effort matters, and every experience contributes to who you are becoming. Many people approach their goals with the belief that success is something they earn once and then hold on to forever. But the reality is that success is temporary, identity is permanent. You can achieve something impressive and still feel empty if it did not change who you are. You can reach a goal and immediately feel the pressure to chase the next one if you measure your life only by outcomes. But when you shift your attention toward becoming, you begin to value the process more than the moment. You stop rushing through the journey and start learning from it. Becoming involves embracing the parts of the grind that don't look glamorous or celebrated. It's in the quiet repetitions, the unnoticed progress, the early mornings, and the late nights. It's in the moments when no one is cheering, when doubt is louder than confidence, and when results still feel distant. These moments matter because they shape mindset, resilience, and character. Achievements do not create character, the process of becoming does. The grind changes you long before it rewards you, and often that change is the reward. When your focus is on becoming, failure loses its sting. Instead of seeing failure as proof that you're not enough, you begin seeing it as part of growth. You recognize that the person you are today may not yet have the skills, wisdom, or experience for what you want, but every setback moves you closer. Every challenge adds a new layer to your identity. You stop fearing mistakes because you understand they do not define you, they refine you. The journey of becoming requires patience, but it also provides freedom. The freedom to grow without the pressure of being perfect. Choosing becoming over achieving also changes your relationship with success. You stop chasing recognition and start pursuing mastery. You stop seeking validation and start building internal pride. You stop defining yourself by what you earn and start defining yourself by who you are becoming. This shift is powerful because it creates a sense of purpose that does not vanish after you reach a goal. When achievement is the only focus, you reach the goal and suddenly feel directionless. But when becoming is the focus, the journey never stops. There is always more to learn, more to build, more to explore. Becoming also deepens your connection with your future self. You start acting not just for the life you want, but for the person you want to be. You make decisions based on who you are becoming, not who you were. This creates alignment. It transforms your habits, your mindset, and your behavior into expressions of your long-term identity. You begin to live in a way that honors the future version of yourself rather than sabotaging it. This is where discipline, purpose, and self-respect strengthen, because every action becomes a conversation with your potential. When achievement is the only measure, you may reach your goals but still feel insecure, unsure, or unfulfilled. But when becoming is the priority, you grow into someone capable of handling success with confidence rather than fear. You grow into someone who doesn't just achieve great things but sustains them. You develop the internal strength to rise after failure, the emotional maturity to handle pressure, and the clarity to choose what aligns with your values. Achievements may open doors, but who you become determines whether you can stay in the rooms those doors lead to. The grind becomes meaningful when you realize that each effort is shaping you. You are not just working toward a goal, you are building the identity required to achieve it. You are developing habits, strengthening discipline, and refining your mindset. Every small action is contributing to who you are becoming, and that transformation continues long after the achievement is complete. When you commit to becoming, the journey never feels wasted because every moment contributes to your evolution, and every step carries you closer to the person you are capable of being when you look at the grind as more than effort, as purpose, discomfort, consistency, discipline, and becoming. You realize it's not just a routine, it's a rebirth. The grind is where you meet the parts of yourself you've ignored, the strengths you didn't know you had, and the future you've been postponing. It's where doubt becomes clarity, where fear becomes direction, and where excuses lose their power. The grind is not meant to break you, it's meant to reveal you. Every morning you rise with intention, every hour you choose progress over comfort, every moment you honor the identity you are building. You step closer to the life you once only imagined. The grind is not about proving something to the world. It's about proving something to yourself, that you are capable, that you are committed, and that you are becoming the person your dreams have been waiting for.